So I've been making Surfboard for quite a few years, guys, and in this video I'm going to show you how I kind of switched my sanding method because I'm a backyard builder and I don't have a dedicated shop just for sanding surfboards after hot coating and gloss coating. So when you polish or sand the gloss coat of a surfboard, you typically wet sand it with a pad and wet dry sandpaper, but it was always hard to find the coarser grits in a wet dry sandpaper. So I finally found a source for 120 grit. Now 3M actually makes one and it's really good quality. It's expensive and it was also hard to find up until recently. But I also found a source on Amazon from, probably this stuff's from China, and this is pretty good quality too. It's 120, it's great. So finally I can wet sand without getting the shop dusty. I did put up some curtains just around the shop because when you're power sanding, which is what I'm going to do, and you could totally hand sand this too, it just take a lot of elbow grease, or you could put it on a random orbital sander, but I'm going to wet sand using my polisher. And this guy here will do it in a hurry, but it will throw out a ton of water and a bit of mess. So that's why I have these curtains all around at waist level, because it's just going to really fling it. So it's not going to put any dust into the air because it's wet. So I love doing this. I've been doing this now for a few boards and I figured I'd share it with you guys now finally. You know, production level board builders or people who have dedicated sanding rooms or an dedicated area where they can sand, they could just get away with sanding with just regular 120 or 100 grit sandpaper. But it just throws out a ton of dust. This takes a little longer, but I'm more than happy to forego the cleaning afterwards because you have to vacuum everything, even though I put curtains all the way around the shop when I used to sand with just regular sandpaper. But the dust it would throw up was just incredible. Anyways, this is great. I love doing it this way now, and it just keeps the dust down to a minimum and clean up to a minimum. So I have my power sander, medium soft pads, 120 grit sandpaper that I've stuck on with some Super 77. Spray bottle to wet down the board sometimes. Although generally, all I do is use a bucket of water and I typically just take the pad and just kind of brush some water on it and the dust or the epoxy just slides right off. It unclogs the sandpaper. Rag, which is nice to wipe it down. And of course, some gloves just to keep my hands from becoming dishpan hands. Let's get right into it. And probably a pair of safety glasses. Probably not a bad idea. But what's awesome about this is you don't need to wear a dust mask. And I'm sticking on a pair of hearing protection because I can listen to my earbuds. I'm going to wet down the board. I'm going to start off with my medium pad just to flatten everything. Then I'll switch over to a soft. I guess I should show you this board. And it's essentially based off of the Paizel Mini Ghost. I figured I'd just show you guys. Did a paper inlay on the nose. Kind of looks cool. Carbon fiber on the tail. Single concave out to a double. And have it set up as a thruster. And the volume comes in at around 34 liters. And it's 6 feet long. Anyways, enough about the specs. Let's start sanding. And my coveralls, my favorite, a plastic garbage bag. Cheap, easy, disposable. I also have a hand pad to sand the rails. And I'll take the paper off just to sand it by hand. sandpaper will clog up. So what you want to do is sand until there are no glossy spots. You may need to wipe the board with a cloth to see the surface, as the water will fill in some of the unlevel areas. So back here, there's a double concave. I'm going to use my soft pad and just run gingerly through both sides and then clean up this hard edge back here. Power sanding makes this so quick. All right, so I'm done the wet sanding at 120 grit. The board is now ready for just another seal coat, gloss coat. Not going to really do a gloss coat on this type of board because it's more performance oriented. I'm only going to put a thin coat because I'm going to be sanding a lot of it off anyway because I want to keep this board light. I don't want it too heavy, but I also don't want it to be like disposable. I do like making boards so that they're just a little bit more durable. So yeah, I just wanted to show you guys in this video that wet sanding at 120 grit really keeps the dust down, especially if you're not in a production environment. You're just doing it at home as a hobby. It keeps your shop very clean. And then what you can do with the water is you can just filter out the dust and dispose of it accordingly. It's inert anyway because it's epoxy, and you might sand through, there might be a little bit of glass in it as well. I had a few sand through, so that's why I'm going to do another coat. But overall, it's super smooth, looks great, like no bumps, no lumps, super smooth. So yeah, so that's how you wet sand a hot coat to keep the dust down. And yeah, I'm pretty stoked at how well this board came out. I already got it up on the glassing stands. Going to wipe it down with some acetone and put the next coat on. Also, when you touch a board that's going to be coated with more epoxy, gloved hands only, super important. You impart any amount of oil or any contaminant on the board, it just will give you headaches. Trust me, I know.